So welcome adventurers, you come to me asking what are attack, spellcasting and equipment boxes on your character sheet and how to fill them. Whether you buy items on your own or take ones that are suggested in your class description, you'll write those items right here. So let's start with weapons you get from your class. For this tutorial I'll choose ones that are suggested from my class description. And all of the information about weapons you can find on page 146. Mind you that races that are small by size cannot utilize heavy weapons. Or if you choose to utilize them, you will have disadvantage on attack rolls. So for my character Shrimpy, who's a fighter, I will have to start choosing between chainmail or leather. Then I will have longbow with 20 arrows, a martial weapon and a shield, or two martial weapons, and a light crossbow with 20 bolts or two hand axes, and Dungeoneer's pack or Explorer's pack. So from equipment you can already tell that fighter can be melee or ranged combatant, since he or she can utilize all kinds of weapons. Since my dexterity is not that high, I will choose things for melee combat. So that's chainmail, two hand axes, and just to be more versatile, two martial weapons, and Explorer's pack. You can read up on all the packs on page 151. Since I want to be versatile with my fighter, I will choose two different martial weapons, one with bludgeoning and the other one with piercing or slashing damage. Reason for choosing two weapons with different damage types is that if enemy is vulnerable to certain type of damage, it will receive twice as much. But if it's resistant, it will receive half as much. You can read about this on page 197. There are also quite interesting things about the damage, so please read it. Anyways, now I have to choose two martial weapons. Unless your class says that you have to choose either melee or ranged, you can choose both. Since my character will be melee based, I will go for melee weapons. And in this instance I'll choose greatsword with slashing damage and maul with bludgeoning damage. Both of them are pretty much the same, heavy and two-handed. Also, if I had chosen one martial weapon and shield, that weapon I chose would have to be versatile or one-handed. Otherwise I couldn't use my shield, which by the way increases your armor class by 2. Anyways, I write in all those weapons in my sheet. Moving on, what is attack bonus and damage type? Now, to simply put, attack bonus is basically a number that you add once you try to attack a monster or something. And the way you calculate it is quite simple. If it's a melee weapon, you have to use strength modifier and proficiency bonus if you're proficient with the weapon. And since Shrimpy here is proficient with martial and simple weapons, the total attack bonus is +4. That is +2 from strength and +2 from proficiency. Now, if the weapon you are using for melee combat has finesse property to it, you can use dexterity modifier instead. Also, dexterity is used for attack bonus for weapons that are ranged. So any bows, crossbows, daggers that you throw, javelins, and so on and so forth. So for example, if Shrimpy had to throw a dagger, my attack bonus would be only 2, because my dexterity modifier is 0. But instead of daggers, I have hand axes that I can either use as a melee weapon or I can throw them. And the same rule applies. Now moving on to damage / type. Now as for damage type, I recommend writing that as a single letter next to your weapon's name instead here. One swing or attack this weapon will do, plus dexterity or strength modifier, depending on how you're gonna be using it. So for example, my greatsword here will do 2d6 damage, +2 of my strength, and minimal damage I can reach is 4. Also in the box below you can write in either your spells or more weapons that you use, and that's about it in here. Now moving on to equipment box below. There you can write in all the other stuff that you gain from your background or you collect on your adventures that aren't really suitable for any other spot, as well as your money. And information about coinage you can find on page 143. So for Shrimpy over here I will write in my armor and all the other stuff I got from my background. Also now I can write in my armor class, which for chainmail is 16. So there, I hope you learned something new, or at least I cleared up something that you didn't know. Feel free to either watch this again if you didn't, and of course check out other parts of this tutorial series.